What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 238 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. Today's episode, number 238, is entitled Turn Your Life Over To... And this episode is really going because of the feedback that I'm getting from episode 235 and 237, where I started giving the stories, the introductions to each of the chapters of From Ashes to Destiny. So this is from chapter 3, which is the third chapter and the last chapter in phase 1. And it has to do with the third step in the 12 steps, which is made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him. So that's why the title is Turn Your Life Over To ... So this one's going to be talking about who do we turn our life over to, what's our higher power, that sort of thing. Okay? You ready? Great. So I want to start by saying, in our addiction, we all turn our lives over to our drug of choice. We really give everything over, our lives, our family, our money, our jobs. We just hand it all over to our drug of choice. Some of us turn our lives over to the hands of our dealer and trust our dealer that the drugs aren't tainted, the drugs aren't, cut with anything that's going to harm us. Some of us turn our lives over to the loan shark who is out there waiting when we get our checks every month to give us a loan, and in turn he keeps our ATM card and he keeps our ID so that we can't do anything to get away from his clutches. But we do these crazy things to turn our lives and our will over just for our next high, just for the comfort that we find in knowing that we're going to get our next high. So the key with this story is, who are you willing to turn your life and your will over to? Are you ready to turn it over to the care of God as you understand him? Okay, here's the story. One day at the end of an outreach in El Segundo, we gathered in a circle behind Chuck's abando for prayer. I want to invite anyone who has something to pray to just talk to Jesus the way we talk to each other, I said as we started to pray. Several people prayed, "Thanks for keeping me alive," and "Take care of my mom. She's getting older, Lord." A man who went by the name IOU prayed the 23rd Psalm with passion in his voice. Then another man named Jello joined the circle and said, "Lord, you know I'm not good at praying, but I need your help to get out of here. There's so much pain and hurt here, God. People are dying. Good people. Lord, I thank you for these people who come to feed us and pray with us. I can see your love for me through them." Just as quickly as he joined the circle, Jello let go of the hands to his left and right and ran away crying. He wasn't the only one crying. We were all crying. The sincerity of Jello's call for help was the silent prayer of hundreds of addicts in the middle of the night, every night. God had used Jello's prayer to teach me to intercede for the other addicts who feel unworthy of God's ear. That day, as Jello left the prayer circle, he went to detox and 5 days later on to rehab. After his first 28 days of rehab, Jello asked for 28 more. When that was finished, he asked for a job in the kitchen at the rehab, where he stayed for about 2 years. Jello turned his life to the care of God that day in the prayer circle, and he's still in good hands today. Awesome story. I really love that story. And just like we've done on the other 2 chapters, I'd like to point out some discussion topics that we all can relate to from that story. So these are your topics to dig in deeper. Okay? I've got 9 for this story. The first one is, I asked everybody in the prayer circle to pray. Just talk to Jesus like you talk to friends. So I want to ask you, how do you pray? Or do you let people who are coming for outreach or pastors or street evangelists do all the praying for you? You know, are they there sort of preaching prayer at you? Or do you pray yourself? Do you feel you can? The second thing I want to point out from this for discussion is the 2 guys mentioned in the story were IOU and Jello. Those were their street names. So what's your street name? What nickname did you pick up in your addiction? And what did that name mean to you? What did it say about your lifestyle and what you'd surrendered to in your addiction? Number 3, IOU prayed this Psalm 23, which he had memorized, as people often memorize Bible verses or prayers or Bible stories. So I want you to think, what are the things that you have memorized that you call to mind to give you strength or give you focus at different times? Maybe it's quotes, maybe it's songs, maybe it's Bible verses, maybe it's something some teacher or your parents or grandparents said to you. Number 4, when Jello prayed, he asked for help. And I think this is key to begin to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, that we realize we have to ask for help. In these first 2 steps, we've said we're powerless, and there is a name above all names. And so now it's time to ask for help from that point of being powerless. And I liked how Jello described the area. He talked about pain and hurt every day as a daily and sort of ongoing occurrence. He said people are dying, good people are dying. So I want you to be able to discuss and talk about what was the everyday life like where you were using. Number 5, Jello at the end of the prayer ran to detox. Literally ran away. And so I want to ask you, what are you running to? Are you still running to your dealer? Are you ready to chase recovery the way you chase your highs? That's a challenge for everybody. Number 6, I talked about in the story the silent prayer of addicts in the middle of the night. And talked about interceding on behalf of the addicts. And I want to give you a challenge in prayer. If you find yourself praying for someone else, I want you to challenge you to truly intercede and pray as them. Don't just pray, God, change them. Pray the prayers that they feel unworthy to pray, that they don't know what the words are. So pray as if you're the addict. Pray as if you're the dealer. Pray as if whatever. Okay? Can you truly intercede that way? Okay. Number 7 ties into that feeling of unworthiness. Have you reached a point where in your addiction you just feel unworthy of any higher power? You wonder if God is even listening or why he would bother to listen. And how did these guys in this story hold on to their prayer life? How did they hold on to the belief that God's still listening to them? And can you identify with that? Number 8, Jello's moment when he ran away to detox, ran away from that prayer, turned into a stick and stay. He got to rehab. He finished his 28 days. He asked for another 28 days. He asked for a job in the kitchen. He stuck and stayed. So I want to challenge you As you approach your moment and say, I'm going to ask for help, can you realize that part of the sticking and staying is, I'm not just asking for help for this moment. I'm turning my life over. And if I turn my life over, I need to be ready to stick and stay. And I want to close with that. As Jello turned his life over, it was a surrender with no conditions. He didn't say, well, I'll stay if this, if that, if that. There are no conditions. He realized that in his addiction, he had turned everything over. And in his recovery, he turned everything over to the care of his higher power. And that's my challenge for you as you go through chapter 3. Are you ready to turn your life over to your higher power? Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you were saying, that's me, as you listen to this, if this challenged you, reach out and contact me. If you're starting to go through the chapters in the book, reach out and contact me. I'm getting people who are contacting regularly through WhatsApp or Zoom, and we can set up some new online groups from people around the world. So if you'd like to be part of that, send me an email to davidfroma2d@gmail.com, or you can contact me on the message link in the podcast platform that you listen to, or you can go on my website, www.froma2d.org, and send me a message that way. Tune in Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay resilient.